I was educated in the West, like Dr. Subarna said, and still a student there. It's very interesting to come here and witness and see the possibilities of going to Australia and studying. I feel like I want to be a student again, leave my education in the so-called Harvard and then go somewhere in Australia. I was born in the eastern part of Nepal, in a district called Songkhwasawa, in a municipality called Mati, in a village called Chiraiti, to a single mother some 33 years ago. 33 years ago, my mother, who's never been to a school, could never have imagined me standing here and telling a joke that nobody laughed at. Or some people did. So, the farthest anyone in my village, in my family, could have imagined is me working as a cheap labor somewhere in Saudi, Qatar, Dubai, like my father, uncle, and my cousins rightly do so right now. As the first university goer in my family, I've had the privilege of seeing the world and using education as the ticket to understand what it is like to dream of a future away from poverty into prosperity. From waking up to taking care of chickens, to understanding and walking to school 2.5 hours, to receiving a scholarship to study in the capital of Nepal, I moved away from a pathway that my family lived or were to live, which is returning back from Saudi Arabia with the tape recorder on my shoulder, with a bag that had ropes around it, and thinking I've catered to my family, being married at 16, to today standing here and saying, there's so much that people can imagine if they're educated. It's a privilege to be here, and I happen to be one of those lucky chaps. I never paid for education, so I don't think I would possibly be fit into the room. At 8 years, I gave an exam that got me a ticket to study in Kathmandu. And then I subsequently got a scholarship paid for by someone named Himalaya Shamsir. He thought I was an okay child to invest in. So I went to study in Venezuela, and subsequently finishing my education in Venezuela and Costa Rica, somebody else thought, why not give this child who's been supported by someone else another opportunity to go and study somewhere else. So I was in the US. While being in the education system, one thing that I realized and that actually made me a different person was I loved questioning. Education taught me to question. And everything, every day, every morning I wake up, there's a new question that I encounter. I feel like education has taught me to answer questions with solutions that have a question. And rightly so, in 2015, when I finished my undergraduate, I returned back to Nepal. Well, I really didn't return back to Nepal. I had a contract in hand that would have paid me $500,000 and allowed me to stay in the US, or return back to Nepal and figure out how to make the $500,000.
Rupees.
$500,000, sorry. Me being me, I decided that I would take on the challenge and not take the contract. It was exciting back then. My mom thought I was crazy. My family thought I failed, to an extent that they even said I was deported from the US. I was like excited. I was basically the hot news in the talk of the town. Basically, oh, there's this dude who's returned back from the US. He gave up a contract. He was kicked out from the US. Well, stories as such are very challenging. They get up to your mental health a lot. You've got to be very strong when coming back to this country. Returning back is not seen as a good sign of a successful person. And you've got to have a skin as thick as that of a rhinoceros, or could be of a crocodile. Definitely crocodile. To come back and take on that wrath, right? Your family is not as supportive. The community is already in this circle of saying, why would you want to come back to this country that's failing? Well, 2015, I returned back and I told my mom, I don't have a choice now, I can't go back. Um, every morning I questioned my decision to come back. I came back with hopes that I could transform this country, transform the story of returning back as a success. Rightly so, I didn't realize it was going to be very challenging. So I started this organization called AAERI Nepal. I was very confident. I basically came back and told Social Welfare Council and a number of people that I can transform the education of this country. Give me the opportunity. And they were like, they looked at me. I wore a half band, chappal, and I was carrying a bag and going to these government offices. And they looked at me and they said, like, are you sure? I said, yeah. Then for 7 months, I went around all the offices trying to convince them that I was the right person, the solution to primary education problem in Nepal. In the 7th month, as my patience weighed down, I realized, oh, there's a different way of doing things here. You don't request them. You ask somebody else to request them. And yeah, since then the journey has been a good one.
You were the person, by the way.
Let's probably not mention it. But honestly, 7 months in, learning so much, I've realized that the importance of relationships. This country's taught me, it's not what you know, it's who you know. It's after who you know comes what you know. Because who you know is going to train you to tell people to tell what you know. So yeah, 8 years on, 82 schools, 14,000 children, 14,000 dreams that are completely different. No, none of them dropping out of school, receiving good quality education. Lives transformed, people dreaming of a life away from poverty into prosperity. That's what I've achieved. It's been a challenge, convincing local governments, convincing provincial governments to come in and join forces. We tried to transform the landscape of the NGO world. That's been one of those plagues that's always been talked about. We tried to create an industry where children no longer leave school, go for remittance abroad, but to stay here and see if they can imagine of a future here in Nepal or away somewhere else, but a future that is not in exploitation, in child labor, or anything other than just a future where they can be what they want to be. Me being me, I thought I would stop right there and say, I don't want to make the $500,000 I lost. And so in 2017, I decided I'll take on a challenge. I decided I'll try to transform the agriculture sector of this country. Everybody was talking about milk being wasted and no healthy products. I was like, why isn't anyone doing anything about it? Like, I mean, not that I knew that nobody was doing anything, but I assumed nobody did anything. So, teamed up with a few friends, started this company called Delish Dairies. It's Nepal's first Greek yogurt company. And as soon as we launched, we were decently hit. As in, we became a pretty good company that everybody loved. And today, after our first Series A funding, we just received July 15, a company that started at $10,000 is worth $15 million as we speak. And it's a testament that this country is filled with possibilities. It's just the patience that is required. And with companies that I've been happily associated with, from the likes of Sweet Fakes to Bloom Nepal School to Delish Dairies, one thing I've learned is it's the people of this country that make ideas and organizations work and successful. As I see these faces here, I know one thing. You guys have a lot of patience. You're still in Nepal, which is a testament of that. And if you return back, majority hopefully have returned back from somewhere, experiences abroad. I can only say things are only going to get better because we've already seen the worst of it. And as you encourage people to go and get education abroad, The biggest recommendation and advice I would give is the possibility of returning back to this country isn't closed, and those possibilities can be shown by people like yourselves. The window to the outer world is you, the window to the inner world is you itself. While you encourage them to go abroad, do definitely encourage them to come back. Not leaving a contract that paid them $500,000 of course, but yeah, if they do have a chance to come back, if they ever ask you, what's the state like here? It's the negatives you can focus on or the positives that will encourage them. Nepal is not everybody's piece of cake, but everybody that leaves this country was once a Nepali. And returning back and doing something is not difficult. The current hopes are really amazing. Politics is changing. Young politicians are coming. Corrupt politicians are coming. Corrupt will stay, corrupt will go. But the hope lies in the fact that young people are making things happen here. And the likes of yourselves are helping bridge the gap between the greater education that can be received and the likes of Professor Subarna are transforming an imagining of universities' possibilities in this country. This country has immense possibilities, not of the fact to become the best in the world. We're already the best. It's just imagining and seeing what can be achieved. I thank you all for having me here, especially thank you for accepting me as one of your guests. And it's just an honor. Thank you so much.
The next